For my natural journalist assignment, I chose two sites on Medicine Lake. I chose Medicine Lake because it's close to home and it's been a lake that's been a part of my life since I was 12 years old, so it just made sense. I chose two sites because the lake looks quite a bit different depending on which site you're looking at it from. One of the sites is in French Park, which has one of the cooler playgrounds I've seen. There's hiking trails. It has canoe rentals. A beach. Grills for picnics. It also has biking trails and this really awesome sledding hill. Although there's no snow on the sledding hill right now. So driving into French Park looks like this. There's that's not part of Medicine Lake, but that's just part of the wetlands surrounding the lake. And driving into East Medicine Lake Park looks a little bit more like this. In contrast to French Park, East Medicine Lake Park feels like it's dominated by development. This site is very close to Highway 169, shares a parking lot with Ryerson, a large metal fabrication and processing facility, and has a storm drain running right into the lake. There is also a playground, but it's less impressive. It has a beach, but the locals keep the children out of it because it's closed due to E. coli. First time at this site I was greeted with an abandoned sweatshirt and a dead northern pike. French Park is about 21 minutes northwest of Augsburg. Here is the two sites in relation to each other and where my house is in relation to the two sites. Both these locations are part of the Three Rivers Park District, which was established in 1957 by Minnesota State Legislature. The mission of the Three Rivers Park District is to promote environmental stewardship through recreation and education in a natural resource-based park system. Medicine Lake is a lacustrine ecosystem, which means it has a lot of deep open water and it's inland. It has a littoral zone, which is the area around the shore of the lake, the limnic zone, which is the open water of the lake, and the benthic zone, which is the bottom of the lake. Some of the benthos is washed upon the shoreline here. Like other lacustrine ecosystems, Medicine Lake has emergent plants like cattails, some floating attached macrophytes like water lilies, and submerged macrophytes like the ones we saw washed up on the shore. These aquatic plants provide shelter for small fish and other organisms. This lake has fish. It has bluegill, crappie, northern pike, largemouth bass, walleye, yellow perch, bullhead, and carp. It's mostly crappie that keep the ice fishing community busy, though. This lake would also have to have some macroinvertebrates to support a healthy ecosystem as well. Unfortunately, I didn't go into the lake to collect any to see what kinds were in there, but I did get a picture of this cool snail shell. The macroinvertebrates in this lake would all need to be very tolerant of pollution, though. A healthy lacustrine ecosystem is also pretty dependent upon the riparian and wetland ecosystems that surround it. The riparian habitat provided me with some great bird watching at both locations. In French Park, I saw seagulls, mallards, coots, who have maybe the ugliest babies I've ever seen in my life. Here's a video of me trying to figure out what coots are. Here's a bunch of ducks, no doubt getting ready to migrate somewhere probably. I don't think they're mallards. They all seem to have white bills. So I'm gonna have to investigate what they are exactly. I also saw blue jays, cardinals, chickadees, sparrows, and woodpeckers. On the east side, I saw more seagulls, mallards, and a really weird woodpecker. Gray squirrels were also showing me their sweet parkour moves, and red squirrels would stop and stare at me just long enough for me to pull my camera out and then disappear when I'd go to take the picture. In pristine conditions, this lake and the surrounding wetlands could have been used for natural water filtration. It would have been a healthy source of fish and perhaps, if used sustainably, timber. Now, due to the excessive runoff associated with developments, the water is polluted, and the park reserve is basically an outdoor gym for suburbanites. The lake is eutrophic. It's high in phosphorus and chlorophyll, and the water clarity is low. The fish have mercury, and as I mentioned, E. coli is a problem. Also, all the boating activity is likely responsible for the introduction of invasive species. Medicine Lake is now home to Eurasian milfoil, curly-leaf pondweed, starry stonewort, and the dreaded zebra mussels. I find it a bit ironic that development and human use is definitely the source of the degradation of this land, but human interest in this land is also required to protect and preserve it. There are at least 5 projects in place that are attempting to restore the water quality of the lake. On the east side, you can find these signs that provide information about a project based on the protection of shoreline vegetation. A couple of the things I learned after visiting the 2 sites for 10 weeks is that you develop a relationship with the land or ecosystem you are studying. There's something about listening to the wind blowing through the leaves and the animals making their noises that make you feel connected to the place you are observing. I learned that small patches matter. The patch of vegetation that was part of the restoration effort in East Medicine Lake Park was actually pretty little, so it just goes to show that a little bit can make a big difference. I learned that people care about the lake, but they don't perceive it the way a biologist does, so they need something simple and tangible, like girls for picnics, to assume the role of steward. Some interesting observations I made, and these are going to probably seem a little random, but though East Medicine Lake Park did seem more toxic, there's a lot of life going on the side of the lake that I thought was more dominated by development. Many of the trees surrounding the lake seem diseased. Animals don't like bad weather. The color of the water seemed to change during mixing. There were weird tunnels between some of the trees and the shoreline, and coots sound really funny. My time at the lake made me curious about many things. I became curious about phytopathogens, what kinds are present in these plants, and how they are transmitted. The social relationship between humans and the park reserves made me wonder how to get people to care more about nature. Every week I observed people using the recreational ecosystem services the parks provided, but I very seldom witnessed many people appreciating the intrinsic value of nature. I would really like to study the dynamics of an ecosystem that is eutrophic and invaded, but still supporting its native species the way Medicine Lake seems to be. I would be most interested in collecting data on the macroinvertebrates, the plants they are eating, or zooplankton, what the effect of the zebra mussels are, fish behavior, etc. Basically, I would like to analyze all the components of a smaller, eutrophic, and invaded lake that still has its fish. I think it could serve as an important model and help in our understanding of how lakes die or reach a sort of equilibrium in its degraded state. Most of the phenological observations I made over the 10 weeks had to do with the seasons changing in Minnesota. It was interesting to really examine the process of abscission in detail and take notice of the subtle changes in leaf color as the weeks went by. I also noticed that animals became more active as winter approached. Waterfowl throws their end of the summer parties for sure. I'll end this virtual field trip with one picture from every week to see these changes taking place.